Hi, Charles Cherney here. And in this video, I wanted to take a look at the neighborhood of East Somerville. So we're looking at all the named neighborhoods of Somerville, Massachusetts here on the screen. And as you can see, there's quite a few of them. And East Somerville, as you'd expect, is in the eastern portion of the city. And its boundary lines are McGrath Highway here, 93, I-93, and Washington Street. And it's otherwise bordering here on Charlestown, and to the south, the neighborhood of Somerville known as Inner Belt or Brick Bottom, and above it, the neighborhood known as Assembly Square. You can see the other named neighborhoods adjacent to it: Winter Hill, Prospect Hill, Union Square. So here we're looking at Google Maps, and I've outlined in red the borders of the East Somerville neighborhood. So here's 28 McGrath Highway, and then Washington Street here to the south, and then 93 defines the upper border. So this is East Somerville. And then here is a more detailed map showing the neighborhood of East Somerville. And the main drag, if you will, in East Somerville is Broadway, which I've shown here, that starts at McGrath Highway and runs all the way down through East Somerville to 93. So that's your main street, if you will, with restaurants, shops, and services. And then the other main drag is Washington Street, which is down here. And the name changes when it reaches Charlestown to Cambridge Street. So once you get into Charlestown, Washington Street becomes Cambridge Street. So this is the other main drag for the neighborhood of East Somerville. So East Somerville is one of the oldest and densest settled parts of Somerville. And once upon a time, it was part of Charlestown. Now it's part of Somerville. And the neighborhood of East Somerville has a long history, as you'd expect. And so if we go back to the 1890s, it began to be settled by immigrant communities from Ireland and Italy. French Canadians also settled here, Greek immigrants. And then as the 20th century unfolded, in the 60s and 70s, Cape Verdeans began to settle in East Somerville. And since the mid-70s, communities include Haitians, Salvadorians, Brazilians, and other Latin American countries and immigrants from those countries settling in East Somerville. And so today it's a real mix of all of these communities and others as well that make East Somerville their home. So as we look at the map, I've identified a few other places of note that make up East Somerville. So up at the corner of 93 and McGrath, or Mystic Avenue and McGrath, is a supermarket, Stop and Shop. Aforementioned is the main drag on Broadway. On Cross Street is the East Somerville Community School. And then I've identified throughout the residential neighborhood that is East Somerville the various parks, which we're going to touch on, found throughout the neighborhood. Chuck E. Harris Park. There's a large park here, Glen Park. There's a newer park, Symphony, and some smaller parks as well that are shown here on the map. And there's a new T station that's located just south of Washington Street. It's the East Somerville station. And I think initially it was called Brick Bottom because it's part of the Inner Belt Brick Bottom neighborhood. But since it's down a pathway off Washington Street serving the East Somerville neighborhood, somebody had the bright idea to actually call it East Somerville Station, which was wise. There is additionally an Orange Line station adjacent to East Somerville at Sullivan Square, and another Orange Line station up in Assembly Square on the opposite side of 93 in the neighborhood known as Assembly Square. So I thought I'd start by having us walk down Broadway. Here we are at I Associates of Somerville on Broadway, and I actually, in a series, SomervilleStories.com did a film about this local eye doctor, and it's been a mainstay in East Somerville on Broadway for some time. So I'll include a link in the description below if you wish to watch that. I was out for a walk and noticed this lovely little shop on Broadway, Michette, and it's looking like it's going to reopen this winter of 2023. It was closed when I made my summer walk, and it's nice to see a coffee shop on Broadway. Love the facade. There's active development throughout East Somerville. It's remarkable to see the gentrification in the neighborhood over the last so many years. And as an example of that, we have this building going up at 154 Broadway. And you can see the elevator core that's been constructed. This building, when it's done, will be 5 stories and feature 45 units. So this sort of thing is happening throughout East Somerville. Obviously, on the side streets, the development projects are smaller in scale, but here on Broadway, we've got a larger complex going in with 5 stories and 45 units, and it's going to be called The Guild. A distinctive restaurant found on Broadway is La Braza, which features a wood-fired grill, and it has this distinctive, colorful entry. And in season, as you can see, they have outdoor dining. Here's a shot showing that colorful front door. It's a real distinctive aspect of La Braza, and it's great to see this mainstay on Broadway. Here's a cafe, Ola, found nearby on Broadway. Colorful. There's a lot of color on Broadway, and it's really joyful and invigorating. As an example of that, next to Ola is the City Line Laundromat, and you can see the mural up on the side of Ola Cafe, which is fun, on the building. And you can see this from Broadway, of course. There are a number of restaurants found on Broadway. Here's a Brazilian restaurant, also with outdoor seating. And nice that someone took the time and made the effort to include the flower boxes. There is as well a Somerville Public Library branch on Broadway. It says here Gold Star Memorial Library, but I believe it's officially known as the Somerville Public Library East Branch. And here's another restaurant found on Broadway. This is a Mexican restaurant, again with outdoor seating. Another mainstay is Mudflat Pottery School, which is located on Broadway, and it has clay studio classes for students of all ages. They have workshops, outreach programs, and it's a really nice studio. I've been in here, and it's an incredible place. So it's nice to see a pottery school in this big building on Broadway. I've been to Taco Loco more than once. Love this burrito place down at the further end of Broadway. And it's got a colorful entrance. And it has this distinctive mural on the side of the building by David Zayas, Zayas. I hope I'm saying his name right. That was done in 2018. So again, another colorful piece of the Broadway experience in East Somerville. It's interesting, off Broadway are residential side streets with state names, mostly from the Midwest. So you can see here on the screen, Minnesota Ave, Wisconsin Ave, Michigan Ave, Illinois, Indiana, all connecting via Pennsylvania. And then for good measure, we've got Vermont Ave, which is circular or half circle, and Maine Ave and Maine Terrace. So not sure how It came to be that this neighborhood, the States, came to have these street names. But as you're walking down Broadway, it's just sort of surprising to see Midwestern street signs, Indiana Avenue, Illinois. I'm from Michigan, so this one always sort of stops me in my tracks as I'm walking down Broadway. Sort of fun. A few years ago, I had a listing in this neighborhood on Minnesota Avenue, and how appropriate that I had this listing in the winter when there was snow on the ground. And for a moment, I almost thought I might be in Minnesota as I stood on the corner and took this photo of the sign. So surprising to see these street names in East Somerville. Again, going back to the map of East Somerville, we can see Washington Street to the south as the other main drag. And it's fun to find this distinctive mural at United Divers on Washington, serving the diving community. Here's a close-up of the mural on the front of the building. Also on Washington Street is Buddy's, and at the moment it's closed. It's not clear if it will reopen. This 1929 vintage lunch car arrived in Somerville in the 1950s, and until recently it was operational. So I don't know if it will reopen, but it's still sitting here, and it's a piece of history in Somerville. This is the new East Somerville Green Line light rail station, found on a long pathway off Washington Street, serving the East Somerville neighborhood, and I think rightly named East Somerville. This is the point at which you cross onto the platform, which we see here. And it's just so great that the Green Line extension opened in 2023, and it's active now and serving the community. Here's a train coming in. And this map just gives you a sense of the Green Line extension coming out of Leechmere with a station stop in Union Square, the one featured here in East Somerville, and then extending beyond to Tufts via Gilman Square, McGowan Square, and Ball Square. So this Green Line extension is now open, as is the community path adjacent to it. So it's exciting. It's been long in coming, and it's finally here and happening. So that's great news for East Somerville. We're looking here at the Charles Williams Jr. house, circa 1858, found at 1 Arlington Street at the corner of Arlington and Lincoln in East Somerville. And what makes this house famous is it was where the first home telephone in the United States was installed. This is, of course, Alexander Graham Bell. And I took this photo on a walk with the telephone lines intentionally included. I think it's kind of fun. There's even in this picture one you can see coming directly into the house on the right side. So this is a piece of East Somerville history, that the first home telephone entered into this house, which is a residential home today. This is the East Somerville Community School on Cross Street in East Somerville, and it serves 700 plus students in grades kindergarten through 8th grade, and they have a fairly large campus that extends through to Glen Street on the backside. And this is a picture out front on Cross Street at recess, and it's an active, vibrant part of the East Somerville community. On Cross Street as well is Berry Branch, a floral shop, and I just happened to take this photo when I was out in front of the school. It's nearby, and it's a nice addition to the neighborhood. There is this Stop and Shop found in East Somerville at the corner of Mystic Avenue and McGrath Highway in the corner of the neighborhood, and it's vast, and obviously it's getting a lot of use from people who live in the hood. Nearby on Garfield is Dino's Pasta Shop. And this is the Matarazzo family, fourth generation local pasta makers. They've been around since 1947, and they've been in Somerville for the last 20 plus years. And these murals are found on the side of the building, this one at the corner of Garfield. And it's fun to see the murals. And this is a real family operation, fourth generation. They have over 100 pastas and 7 original sauces. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. They're serving the local community, and you can come in and purchase pastas and sauces at this shop. And they're also delivering to the greater Boston community, to various supermarkets, etc. This is an additional mural on the back of the building near Chucky Harris Park. And, it's nice to see the shop supporting and celebrating the neighborhood as well with this mural. Chucky Harris Park is across the street, on Cross Street, from the backside of Dino's Pasta. And this is a picture I took of the sign that just talks a little bit about the history of Chucky Harris Park and how it came to be at this address and what happened here in the past. And actually, when I was out on a walk in 2023, the day that I was out walking, they were attending to landscaping and cleaning the garden, or the park, that is. So I went into my files and found these photos that I took 10 years ago when Chucky Harris Park reopened after being renovated. And it's just such a great park with various play areas and places to sit. This one really gives you a good sense of the unique landscape of the park. And, it's just a great resource for the community. There's a lot of parks in East Somerville, and it's nice to see how well maintained they are. Love this large water feature at Chucky Harris Park. Just beyond Chucky Harris Park is a newer park called Esca Park, ESCA, and we're looking at it here. And it's closer to 93. And I believe Chucky Harris Park was once known as Harris Park and once was in this location, which has now been renovated and redone and is known as Esca Park. You can see there's places to sit, picnic area, nice landscaping, pathways, and that's a new condo complex seen as a curtain wall adjacent to Esca Park. And so that's a great park near Chucky Harris. And then the big park in East Somerville is Glen Park. I've put the map back up on the screen just to show you where it is. It's off Washington Street between Glen and Franklin and adjacent to the Capuano Early Childhood Center. You can see it's a big green space. And here's a sign just showing you're at Glen Park. Big playground for kids. There's the Children's Center behind it. And again, this is a nice little playground, part of the Glen Park complex. They do have community gardens as well, which are very well maintained, as you get a sense of here. And there are fields. This is the soccer pitch. And there's basketball. So it's a big park. But there are other parks as well. Here we're looking at a small neighborhood park on Perkins Street, known as the Perkins Street Park. You can see you go in the gate here, and there's a place to sit and play. And they've got basketball as well. And then also there is the Florence Playground on Florence Street. And this is close to where Florence Street meets Washington Street. Dates from 1978. It's well maintained. It has basketball and a play area as well for kids, swings. And then more recently, in 2015, came into existence Symphony Park. And this is located off Florence Street. And we're looking here at a photo of Symphony Park. This is a really lovely park. This particular statue is called We Are Still Listening, and it's by the artist Furman Castro, and it's made from a tree which once stood in front of the Hadley Conant home that once stood at this location, which was known for being the home of a family of musicians from the 1880s. And so this statue and the park's name, Symphony Park, is meant to commemorate the history of music making from this location in East Somerville. And it's a beautiful park. Here you have a good full view of this statue made from a tree celebrating music. And what a wonderful park. It's got some different levels and pathways, and it's very well maintained. It's an interesting little park, and it's just delightful. Again, it came into existence in 2015, and I remember when it was being constructed, and it really came out beautifully. You can see here how nice it is. Beautiful plantings in season, of course. Little sitting area under the trellis, bistro table. Had it to myself this day. I was taking photos. Just delightful. And you can see the street sign there on Florence Street at Pearl. Beautiful architecture as you wind your way down Florence and throughout East Somerville. There were quite a few beautiful Greek Revival and Italianate residences constructed in East Somerville in the mid-1800s. And in particular on Mount Vernon Street, you'll find some beautiful residences. Love this colorful door on Mount Vernon. Here's an example of a lovely home on Mount Vernon Street off Pearl. Just lovely. And, this one in particular really is beautiful. The Ebenezer David House circa 1850. Just beautiful. This home is one that I listed and sold in 2022 on Glen Street. It's actually a condominium and a renovated 2-unit building with a lovely front porch and parking and 2 levels of living and adjacent to the East Somerville School. So it's an example of a more recently renovated home in East Somerville, and there are quite a few of these now that you'll find as you walk throughout the neighborhoods that make up East Somerville. And then in 2023, I listed this lovely attached single family with an outdoor shed, a grassy area, a patio tucked out of sight here on the backside, and a large parking area. And this generated a lot of interest, as you might imagine. Here you get a sense of its location on Knowlton Street, and it's just adjacent to and across from the community gardens that are part of Glen Park. And as an end unit with 3 exposures and in move-in ready condition, this listing generated a lot of interest. I'll include links to my listings in East Somerville in the description below. And obviously you can reach out for information on additional listings in the neighborhood at any time. My name is Charles Cherney, and I'm a local real estate agent serving buyers and sellers in Cambridge and Somerville. I have a deep knowledge of both communities, and I have, over the last several years, listed several listings in East Somerville, and I am familiar with the neighborhood. If you're looking to buy the right home here or sell for the best price, reach out at any time by text, telephone, or email if I can be of assistance to you, or simply answer your questions about the market, your home, and the community. Be in touch. Take care.